Okay, we're starting on, first of all, we're doing where to start off if you want to progress with your running, regardless of what level you are, whether you're just a beginner, a novice beginner, or you are trying to progress to the elite level. My own, what I think is my own personal success in athletics was due not to any talent or ability, but the proper application of sports science and sports psychology. And I would basically have a simple method. And these methods are really quite easy to follow. So first of all, the first thing I would always advise to do is set up a training plan. And the training plan is really telling you what you're hoping to do or where you want to go. The training plan, I use an acronym SMARTIES. And a very simple method of writing down what your goals are. So we start off with S, which is being simply specific. In this area, you need to be precise in what you want to achieve. You need to be exact and be easily defined those particular goals. So the more complex, the more difficult, the more mechanisms in order to achieve your goal, the harder it is to achieve. And when I say if you can do into athletics or running, you have to be, what I say is be event specific. Have a chosen one event in which you want to specifically target. M, then for, is measurable. You've got to be able to measure that distance. And this I use over time, over distance. So let's say you want to use a mile. You know how far the distance is, you can measure it, and you measure your time. You then be able to compare your time with yourself or with others. The next one is A, achievable. This is the physiological needs. The physiological needs of that particular event. Your VO2, your oxygen capacity, your lactate, obla, the onset of blood lactate accumulation, all these things are, and your biomechanics, and all these things are your the physiological needs of that event, and whether you've got those attributes. R is realistic, which is the physical requirements of that event. So we use an example, the mile. If you want to run a 4-minute mile, there are physical requirements in order to obtain that 4-minute mile. But you need to have the physical attributes in order to attain that result. The next one is T for time frame, and this refers to periodization. You need to have your training periodization of training, and I usually do the 6 to 8 weeks. The 6 weeks is a build-up phase. You're building up the training, and then you have the 2 weeks plateau, which fits in with the neural adaptation to exercise. I also then use a training diamond. Now here is what we call the training pyramid. Now the training pyramid starts off with high volume and low intensity. Then you move up after a few weeks to moderate volume, moderate intensity, and then you move up further to low volume and high intensity, and then you compete. Now the problem with the training pyramid is that it's bunk. It doesn't work because the high volume at the beginning is too high. You do too much, you overtrain, and you burn out. The proper version is then the training diamond, where you start off with low volume and low intensity. Then you move up to moderate volume and moderate intensity, high volume, low intensity, then moderate volume, moderate intensity, low volume, high intensity, and then you compete. This is done so you gradually increase the volume and you gradually increase the intensity. The next one is inclusive. Inclusive means pretty much competition. You need to compete. You need to be in a competitive field. Whether it's you need to compete against yourself and against others. The competition is the driving force of this sport. Athletics is a competitive sport. There's no two ways around it. You have to compete. And then E is for enthusiastic. Now, I don't mean being excited. Enthusiastic means you infuse to have the running, athletics, as a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice. It's what defines us who we are. So you are infused with yourself. You define yourself as a runner. So that is enthusiasm. Because your whole lifestyle is that running. And then finally, S for sustainable. You've got to be able to sustain the efforts of all the training log, the training plan, and sustain it for the long period of time. So therefore, that is Smarties. So the training plan tells you where you want to go. The training log then is what you're going to do. And that's specific training for a given day. Whether you're going to do repetitions, intervals, easy recovery runs, long runs, whether you do weight training, all these things. The training log is specific to the physiological and physical needs of the event. But if you want to do speed, you want to do endurance, you want to do strength, you want to do hills. And over the 6-week period, you go from general and you move to specific. And the other thing is, best not to mix any of the types of training. So you don't mix intervals with repetitions. The next thing is then, after you've done your training log, you do a training diary. And a training diary, I always do a morning resting heart rate. I used to use a heart rate monitor, then a blood pressure machine. Now I use just a simple pulse ox. Measure your resting heart rate and your blood volume, your blood oxygen levels. This tells you what you write down is what was done, what time you did all in, the distance and how you felt afterwards, during and afterwards. And it tells you what you have done. Then you go to the next phase. The next piece of important thing to do is your competition diary. And that is the same thing as a training diary, but it's geared towards your actual competition. On what you do on the build up to competition, and the competition day, and competition, and how you did, and what successes you've done from that. And there we go.